start off my reflection for this class, I would like to share a quote from one of my absolute favorite writers of all time, Miss Sylvia Plath. Her quote reads, "I can never read all the books that I want. I can never be all the people I want and live all the lives I want. I can never train myself in all the skills I want. And why do I want? I want to live and feel all the shades, tones, and variations of mental and physical experiences possible in life. And I am horribly limited." This quote really sums up my identity as a reader and a writer. When I became a teacher, I knew that I wanted to teach English because I absolutely love to read. I thought I was pretty hot stuff when it came to my literary skills back in the day, especially in high school and in college. I was great at writing papers and reading books every chance that I got, usually in the hallways of my college classes. I did a lot of waiting in doctor's offices, so I'd read books there. And I just remember that I had a real passion for reading and writing. However, when I was asked to teach AP Literature, I realized that there was so much more out there that I needed to read and write about. The number of poems, short stories, novels, and plays, it's really unlimited. And I realized that, like Plath said, I've probably, quote, never read all the books that I want, and I needed to start reading a lot of books so I could teach the AP curriculum in 2012. I still felt horribly limited by what I needed to teach. I wanted to accomplish so much, but at first it seemed like I was trying to count Mount Everest, and I'm not really good at climbing. Now I've come to realize that I have grown as an AP Literature teacher in extraordinary ways. I still haven't read every book that I want to, and I still have to read a lot more in the next few years, but I have read quite a few new authors, including Sylvia Plath, who I absolutely love. I've also read people like Faulkner, Foster, Atwood. I've experienced a lot more when it comes to the literary realm, so now I don't feel so limited, and I always try to take it one piece of literature at a time. So when I look back on all that I've accomplished this year, what I'd like to go over is these three things. Number one, the Kite Runner has inspired me to write creatively and personally. Number two, teaching and learning plays is intriguing and beneficial. And number three, AP Literature is more than just a class. So one thing that I feel about learning and reading is that the power of a book can be applied to your own writing. At the start of the year, we read a book called The Kite Runner by Khaled Hosseini. I always knew that the reading was about finding those important plot points and taking them into seminar, but this year I also learned how to look at the author's writing craft and style. I realized that how an author writes can really inspire my own writing. In Hosseini's novel, I noticed that he used dramatic, short, two-word sentences and intense moments of narration. So here's an example from his work. So he's got the short sentence right here, I nodded. As you look at my Weebly, the quote really helped inspire me when I started to write my own personal narrative, which is about getting into trouble when I was a child. This is by far one of my greatest works of all time. I'm just going to share a chunk in the background with you. Basically, I got in trouble because I destroyed it was like a windmill thing that was in a neighbor's house. And when I went into the house, I touched it and broke it, and I made the woman, Mrs. McJohn, very angry. So here's a line. "Now I knew for certain that I would never be able to go back to the McJohn house ever again. I shook my head and put my hands dolefully to my side. I sighed. The consequences of my action were deep, irreversible, and felt heavy on my heart. I knew I would never ever see the elevator," and that's from A Child's Contrition. So just like Khaled Hosseini did, I use short sentences. So one of the first things I learned is that authors' writing style can influence your own writing. The next thing that I learned is that teaching and learning plays is intriguing and beneficial. I haven't read a lot of plays. I've read a couple of Shakespeare, and while I know Shakespeare is the most popular and well-known poet to study, it is actually Henrik Ibsen's A Doll House that has helped me see how beneficial and intriguing plays can be. I love starting with A Doll's House to see the characterization shine through with oral reading. This is a slideshow of different pictures. And after I read it and worked with my students and had them act it out, I'm always really impressed with how the kids accomplish the piece and how they capture the words of Nora, Torvald, and Krogstad. I always laugh when I hear Torvald call his wife Squirrel and Songbird, as well as watch Nora sneak the macaroons in the play. It's even more humorous to watch my AP students perform these lines. This play has taught me that reading isn't always about the full-length novel. It's also helped me as a teacher transition into something like Shakespeare, which many kids love to hate, but also later on usually learn to love. As you can see on my Weebly, there are several great pictures that capture Ibsen's work, as well as what my students accomplished when they did Shakespeare. So there's Mr. Ibsen. This is actually Nora dancing. Here's a picture of the cover of one of the books, which is kind of a nice representation of the doll's house. Here's the Christmas decorations. This is actually my students reading and working on Shakespeare. Here's some acting and costume design. I love Bailey's face during this. Here's some more acting. Ben, I don't know what he was very thrilled by the line that he read. This is when I got hit because I was one of the characters getting stabbed. So, plays can be really interesting and beneficial. The final lesson I learned this year is how AP Literature has been so much more than a class. It's a lifestyle, a mindset, it's a community. I love the moments that you see in these pictures below, like the academic fair that kids helped me work with. There's also a picture of my students in our class t-shirts. When it came to showing off our AP Literature class during the parent-teacher conferencing and at the first academic fair, I was so happy to see several AP Literature students come in on their own time. They helped create the class board, the binder that we shared with the population. That is real dedication. As cliche as it may sound, experiences like this one will be ones that I will always remember. Moments where we laughed, argued, found new insights, those are things that only happen in an AP setting, and that takes dedication. So where will I go next year? So what I need to think about is I look at this final picture of my class and I ponder what type of reading and writing will take place in the future and for my future AP students, and I have these goals. Number one, I hope to continue and study and really point out authors' craft in every book, not just Kite Runner. Number two, I hope to teach students that great literature is many forms of writing from all different ages, plays, novels, short stories, and poems, anything from contemporary to the past. And number three, I finally hope that I will find more ways to let my students be creative. Sometimes it's very easy to focus all on analysis, but there's other creative things as well. And that concludes my discussion of AP